Hi everybody, it's David from Doctors of Running, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Brooks Levitate 6. The Brooks Levitate 6 is a continuation upon the Levitate line for the daily trainers, with the update to the midsole being the DNA AMP version 2. Now the Levitate's a daily trainer, it's in the neutral category, but it's a shoe that wants to give you a little bit more of a lively toe off, and I think they do a pretty good job of accomplishing that while still continuing to have that daily trainer DNA. So this is a shoe that you mainly log a lot of daily miles in. It's a workhorse shoe, but you can still turn it over a little bit if you want to. I have the Stealthfit version specifically, so the Stealthfit version runs a little bit lighter. We're looking at 9.9 ounces, men's size 9. I weighed this before the video. It was 10.1 ounces in my 9.5. Overall, it fits pretty true to size for me. The shoe has an 8mm drop. I think that feels pretty comparable. Doesn't feel like it's super high up, doesn't feel like it's super low. It feels like it's in that kind of upper middle range, so that all feels pretty natural there. I don't have stack heights for the heel or for the forefoot. I just know it's an 8mm drop and that they added 2 more millimeters of DNA AMP version 2 from the Levitate 5 to the Levitate 6, along with the update of the midsole itself. So that's what we're looking at for the Brooks Levitate 6. Stealthfit version, basically it's like a thinner, not really thinner, but more of like a knit upper, a little bit lighter on the foot, one piece. It's not the mesh upper you would see in the normal Levitate 6. With that said, they added a little bit more volume to the Levitate 6 through pretty much the entire region of the shoe. So it sits up a little bit higher. And I think that's a good move because this knit upper does lock down pretty well. It fit true to size for me throughout. For me, it was definitely what I would consider quote-unquote normal. I didn't really feel like it was overly narrow or overly wide. Not really even slightly narrow or slightly wide. It was like pretty much down the middle of what I would consider in the shoe. And so you can kind of see here in the heel cradled, it has a little heel counter, but it's a little bit more shallow. The knit upper comes up a little bit higher, wraps around that heel, and that counter starts to like go away from the side here. So it's a little bit of padding on the top here. This isn't the actual counter. This is a little bit of counter right here. And then you have that little pull tab right there. So that locks down pretty good. The upper material itself, it has a little bit of stretch to it in the tongue region. When you're running, it doesn't have as much of a stretch. So it has a little bit of a stretch, but it's more of an accommodating type stretch. When you're running, you're swelling up a little bit. So I actually really appreciated that aspect of it. I did find that the tongue's a little bit on the thinner side, so the laces did bite a little bit more than I would have preferred, but not too bad. I could still lock it down and get going. As far as the ride goes, you probably noticed on the video here, there's not a major rocker to this shoe. So a lot of the shoes you're seeing nowadays where you have this like really fast rolling sensation coming off the forefoot, you don't really have that in this, but you do have the propulsiveness. And so I actually really like it. It's been a refreshing shoe for me because I am a little sensitive to some of these rockered shoes and I don't really like running in a shoe like that all of the time. And so for me, the transitions were much more balanced in the Levitate 6. You can see there's a little bit of heel rounding. It's not like it's completely flat. Let me try and get this level with the camera here. There we go. So slight bevel there. It's pretty centralized, I would say. There's some flex grooves in the forefoot, and there's a slight little toe spring up there. So everything's pretty gradual in this shoe, and it feels that way. It runs off like a very balanced, smooth, kind of just natural form type shoe. I did notice there's some rigidity in the midfoot here. I didn't have instability per se. Supposedly they widened this from version 5 as well. This is my first Levitate, so I can't speak on that one. I did notice it was a little bit stiffer than I probably would like it to be, though, in the midfoot compared with the rest of the platform of the shoe. I'm willing to look past that, though. I enjoyed the rest of the shoe as far as the experience goes. The DNA AMP version 2 midsole, it is surprisingly responsive for like the feeling you get from it. When you start running, it's like, it almost feels like a thicker gel-like substance where you have a little bit of suspensiveness, and the rebound isn't huge, but it's a little bit more than you'd probably get from a traditional EVA foam. So it's one of these shoes that I like to do a lot of daily miles in, just long workhorse type mileage. And then if I have strides at the end of my run, I can actually do strides in these and they feel pretty comfortable and I can kind of turn over and get going. And it's not really a shoe I ideally would reach for on workout day, but if I really had to, I probably could. So the midsole just adds a little bit of life to the ride, but overall I would say it's a very neutral ride throughout, very balanced. There's nothing really overdone here. I do like that there's a little bit of sole flaring in the forefoot. I talked about this on my written review as well. You just kind of have a little bit more cross-sectional area under your foot there, and you just feel a little bit more confident when you're coming off. You get a little bit of that in the heel as well, where it kind of spans out, and you just notice, you just feel a little bit more secure on the platform. And for those that are sensitive to these types of shoes, where they just need a little bit more stability on top of that, they do have a GTS version, Go-To Stability, that they'll also be doing for the Levitate 6, and Klein should be making a video on that very shortly. But overall, I've been very, very pleased with the Levitate 6. It's been a shoe that I have been reaching for more and more. I think I've got about 25 to 30 miles on these at the moment. Right now, it doesn't even look like I've made a dent. I can barely see any wear on the outsole right now, and I imagine this is going to last for a while. Really, the only things I would probably clean up is just the midfoot just feels a little bit stiff to me. The upper, the laces bite a tiny bit. Other than that, everything fits pretty darn good if it's true to size and the ride is nice and smooth. It's a smooth transition with just a little bit of pop. It's not crazy responsive, but it's a little bit more than a traditional EVA. So that's the Brooks Levitate 6 Stealthfit.